Welcome to Digital Explorers. I'm Landry Anka, founder of DigitalExplorers.net, creating a completely new way of doing business. Loving what you do first, then monetizing it. Having a business strategy. What a concept. I've got a really good story for you today. I decided that after 20 years of investment banking, I was going to share some of these stories with you that I might not have felt comfortable doing a few years ago. Well, I quit investment banking well over a decade ago. I was in it for 20 years, and I realized I was in a career that I didn't love. How did that happen? Yeah, are you? How does that happen? Yeah, even if we go into something we think we love, if we decide we don't love it, somehow we never get out of it. Well, I fell into it. It was private equity. I didn't really need a finance background. It was really a sales position, so to speak. In other words, making deals. As one of my friends said, you're a deal maker, you're a rainmaker. And so that was the most valuable position. And of course, I got caught up in all the private jets and the big expense account and all the fun stuff, but also the stress and the things that I didn't love at all. I got caught up in all that, and I didn't know where to go because I thought, I don't know who would hire me at this point. Are you in a position where you think, I can't really take these skills someplace else? Well, I want to share a story with you because this is actually pretty typical. I was watching a television series here called American Greed, and boy, did it hit home. It showed a company in New York. A lot of people I knew, names that they said that I recognized, had taken innocent people for millions of dollars, right? And so what they had is a scheme that I'm going to share with you today. It was pretty shocking, even for me. Back in the day, and it probably still goes on now, those who wanted to get funded that had companies or real estate deals or something that maybe the banks wouldn't give them money for would go to these small businesses that would look into getting unusual funding for them, maybe private investors or some other method that was privy to them. Well, of course, if you have a passion, you really want to get your project off the ground, you'll pretty much do anything, right, to get that money. Unfortunately, that's the case. Well, I had a client, and he was going to have these medical facilities all throughout California, and he was really good at what he did. He had great experience, and I believed in him. Well, we were looking into some of these smaller, unusual ways to fund the business. And one of these companies was owned by a former New York undercover cop. He had a best-selling book about this great life that he had, and now he owned this private company that funded businesses. He wasn't licensed because what he was doing didn't really require the license since he wasn't the one funding. Now, things have changed since then, thank goodness. So what he would do is he'd get you into the office and he'd look at your deal, and then he'd say, okay, I think this is really great, and if we think we can take it on, you're going to have to pay us X amount of dollars. It could be anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000, which is pretty substantial if you don't have any money in the first place. He called it a due diligence fee. In other words, we're going to investigate your whole deal and decide if it's viable or not. And if it's not, or we can't get the funding, you kiss that money away. And each person, each client would sign a contract saying that, yes, they agreed to this. All legal? Well, I told my client, absolutely not. I just don't see it. We're going to go after other sources. You don't need to pay somebody money to do that. That doesn't even make sense to me. If they're making money off of the transaction, then they should not be charging a due diligence fee. Well, a few weeks later, I get a call from an FBI agent. And he says, do you know Mr. So-and-so? And I said, yes. And I thought, uh-oh, we got problems. What's going on here? He says, well, he has given money to this firm, which he named, out of New York. And and this firm is under investigation for taking due diligence fees. And I said, well, my client never gave him a due diligence fee. And he says, yes, he did. I'm looking at the check right here. I'll send you a copy of the check. And he did. And I said, oh my God, I'm going to call my client and really let him have it. why did you do that? And he said, I know, but I thought we could do this, and I had faith in this guy, and I know you didn't like him, but he's a former police officer and all this other stuff. And I said, yeah, that's part of the scheme. And there were a lot of them out there, still are. Well, I asked the FBI agent, it was only, I think, $16,000 or something like that. I said, I don't get it. Why are you after this guy? And he signed, my client signed a contract, so technically it's legal. Why are you going after this guy? It's only $16,000. I mean, how much money could he be making? He said, well, times a couple hundred a year that this guy does that and never funds anybody. He's making millions, and we're trying to stop it. But because your client signed a contract saying he understands that the due diligence fee is nada, we can't really go in and arrest him. But there's one way we could do it. If he couldn't fund your deal, and he's not funding any deals, then we could possibly go in. So what I did is I called the owner of the private firm, the ex-police officer, and I said, hi, I understand my client gave you money, unbeknownst to me. So it's been a couple months, and I just want you to know the FBI called me. And he says, oh, they're trying to frame me. He had this, the typical American greed kind of explanation. I said, well, if that's true, I just want you to know I'm working with them. But if you fund me, if you fund my client, we're good. Then you're showing that you're legit. He says, okay. Well, a couple months went by, and I'm on the phone letting him know FBI's still working with me. Well, what he did is he went into Canada, he went into a bank, and he was checking out all kinds of ways to get that money to us. And he says, I've got $1 million for you. I said, great. So this went on for a while, and I was really putting the pressure on him. He finally sent a check for $1 million. I had it in my hand. The FBI called me, and I said, I got the $1 million, and they said, go ahead and cash it. Well, it bounced. That's a federal offense. And because he went and funded us, and it bounced, that allowed the FBI to go after him. Now, in the meantime, I want to share with you, I lived in the Detroit area, and let's just say there are some people there in business that are a little bit powerful. Well, I got a call from one of them. He actually had just gotten out of prison. He had been part of this tire business and some trucking businesses, and he told me that they went through the same thing. They tried to get some funding. A client tried to get some funding, and that this guy was doing the same deal to them. And so we were sharing stories. Well, this gentleman in a high-level place that had just gotten out of prison made a trip to the business of this ex-police officer. So in addition to me sending a check into the FBI, this guy goes there and visits him, and he told me that he had knocked on the window, that the owner of the firm, the ex-cop, ran around and was shutting all the doors and locking them. He's calling the police, trying to get some protection, and this, let's just say this powerful man from Detroit was standing outside with a baseball bat. I'm not kidding, this is real stuff. So he tells me that, he was going to make sure this guy followed through, or at least gave the money back, of course, which he couldn't. I'm sure he was living high on the hog. After a few weeks went by, or actually it was probably a few months, I never really heard from anybody again. My client never got his money back, but I knew that we stopped other people from being scammed. And what I found out was that this ex-officer who was scamming people committed suicide. Now, my question is, did he? We have somebody from Detroit going there to visit him. We got the FBI breathing down his neck. Did he really? I don't know. You tell me. We speculate that perhaps something else happened there. I don't know, but that was the world I wanted nothing to do with. I've got more stories for you because I got scammed out of $500,000 from somebody who's supposedly credible in a very high place. I also had a billionaire scam us. Try to go after a billionaire. It's almost impossible unless you've got the same firepower. That's the world I stepped out of and I want nothing to do with. That's why I've created a platform built on integrity, business practices, and doing good things, not scams and schemes to get people to buy things that aren't good for them. DigitalExplorers.net creates planet conscious businesses, and everything we do is placing other people, our planet first, how we do business, and our own health. I was not feeling very healthy in that position. I never felt healthy. In fact, I realized if I didn't get out, I was going to be one of those people like all of my colleagues out there, either getting high blood pressure, nervous breakdowns, heart attacks, divorces. It was rampant. Why is that? Are you in one of those professions? I'll share more stories with you. The horrors of Wall Street, and I have a lot of good stories. If you are an entrepreneur, don't place your trust in somebody else who's taking money from you because you have these false hopes. I see a lot of that going online. Here you can make money. Don't create a business based on that. Create a business based on something you are so passionate about, you truly love, and you're going to do the work and get the skills and get the guidance in a way that is legitimate to create something powerful for yourself. It's not an easy path, but it's a lot easier than staying in something that's so unhealthy for yourself and other people. I have a free webinar, I have free emails, I've got all kinds of great information for you if you want to check out my training. So, I hope you enjoyed this little story. I'll never find out exactly what happened. What do you think? I'll see you in the next video.